Admiral XR9 stood before the Galactic Council's War Tribunal, his biosynthetic limbs trembling as he recounted the impossible defeat. The massive holographic display behind him showed the twisted wreckage of what had once been the Dominion's most formidable fleet, 10,000 vessels reduced to cosmic debris, orbiting a small blue planet called Earth. "The humans," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "They weren't what our intelligence predicted." 3 months earlier, the Galactic Dominion had launched Operation Final Conquest. Earth had been identified as a Class 7 civilization, primitive, fragmented, with basic nuclear capabilities. Their largest weapons could barely scratch a Dominion frigate's shields. The invasion was meant to be a routine subjugation, a stepping stone before the Dominion's expansion into the Orion Arm. Fleet Commander Thane 5 had been confident as they emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 10,000 warships, each the size of a small moon, bristling with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. The humans' largest space station looked like a metal pebble compared to even their smallest corvette. "Initial scans confirmed our projections," XR9 continued, his memory cores replaying the data streams. "Population, 8 billion. Technology level, early space age. Military capabilities, negligible. We expected complete surrender within 72 hours. The first wave had advanced toward Earth with ceremonial precision. 1,000 destroyers moved into formation around the planet, their weapon systems charging for a demonstration of power. The plan was simple: destroy a few empty regions to show their might, then demand unconditional surrender. But as the destroyers locked onto their targets, something unprecedented happened. The humans didn't flee or hide or surrender. Instead, every major city on Earth suddenly blazed with energy signatures that made no sense according to Dominion physics. Massive structures erupted from the ground, not buildings or fortifications, but something far more impossible. They were generators, XR9 explained to the stunned tribunal. But not for any technology in our databases. They were powering something we've never encountered. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been waiting for this moment her entire career. Deep beneath CERN in laboratories that officially didn't exist, humanity's greatest secret had been decades in the making. While the world above argued about politics and borders, a select group of scientists had been preparing for the day when Earth would face an existential threat from the stars. "Project Prometheus is online," she announced to the underground command center. Around her, scientists from every nation worked at stations connected to similar facilities in Shanghai, Moscow, São Paulo, and 12 other locations worldwide. All quantum field generators are synchronized. The alien fleet had given them the perfect test scenario. As the destroyers prepared to fire, Elena initiated the sequence that would either save humanity or tear apart the planet's quantum fabric. "Engage the Heisenberg field," she commanded. What happened next defied every known law of physics in the Dominion's extensive libraries. A field of quantum uncertainty expanded from Earth, washing over the first wave of destroyers like an invisible tide. Within this field, the fundamental constants of physics began to fluctuate wildly. Commander Thane 5 watched in horror as his destroyers simply changed. Their hull plating began shifting between different states of matter. Energy weapons fired beams that curved backward and struck their own ships. Navigation systems reported that the vessels were simultaneously in 1,000 different locations at once. The quantum uncertainty principle, XR9 explained to the tribunal. They had weaponized it. Within their field, nothing could exist in a definite state. Our ships began experiencing spontaneous matter-antimatter conversions. Our targeting systems couldn't lock onto anything because our own weapons existed in superposition. Half the first wave was destroyed not by human weapons, but by their own existence becoming probabilistic, Ships phased in and out of reality, their crews experiencing life and death simultaneously, until their consciousness simply couldn't cope with the paradox. But the humans weren't finished. As the Dominion fleet regrouped and prepared for second assault, Elena initiated Phase 2. If quantum uncertainty could disable their ships, then quantum entanglement could turn their own numbers against them. Activating the Ushterdinger protocol, she announced, across Earth's surface, massive particle accelerators began generating entangled quantum pairs on an astronomical scale. These pairs were projected toward the alien fleet, where they began forming connections between individual warships. Suddenly, every action taken by one ship was mirrored by another somewhere in the fleet. When a cruiser fired its main cannon, an identical energy discharge erupted from a vessel on the opposite side of the formation, aimed at their own forces. When a frigate tried to retreat, its quantum-entangled partner was compelled to advance, creating impossible stress on both vessels' hull integrity. They turned our entire fleet into a single quantum system. Zexar-9's voice carried a note of professional admiration, despite the horror. Every ship became entangled with every other ship. We couldn't attack without attacking ourselves. We couldn't retreat without advancing. We couldn't exist without creating paradoxes that tore our vessels apart at the subatomic level. The final phase was the most elegant. As the Dominion fleet descended into chaos, Earth's quantum field generators created one last impossibility: a localized reversal of entropy. Time didn't reverse, that would have been impossible. Instead, the humans created zones where the natural decay and disorder of the universe began running backward. Ship hulls that had been damaged began healing themselves, but their component atoms started reverting to earlier configurations, turning advanced alloys back into their constituent ores. Energy weapons found their charges dispersing back into component particles before they could fire. Admiral Zexar-9 had been commanding the rear guard when the impossible began happening. He watched through his ship's sensors as 9,988 vessels of the Dominion's finest fleet simply ceased to exist in any meaningful way. They didn't explode or disintegrate. They became quantum possibilities, existing in all states and no states simultaneously. Only 12 of us escaped, he concluded his testimony. 12 ships out of 10,000, and only because we were at the very edge of their quantum field when I ordered an emergency hyperspace jump. The tribunal members sat in stunned silence. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't defeated the Dominion through superior firepower or advanced shields. They had rewritten the fundamental rules of reality in their local space-time, turning physics itself into a weapon. "Recommendation?" asked the chief arbiter. Zexar-9 straightened despite his damaged systems. Immediate reclassification of Earth to Class Omega threat level. Full quarantine of the Sol system. And, he paused, processing data streams from his memory cores, we send no more fleets. We send ambassadors. Any species that can weaponize the uncertainty principle itself isn't one we should be trying to conquer. In the depths of CERN, Dr. Elena Vasquez powered down the quantum field generators and allowed physics to return to normal around Earth. Humanity had passed its first test as a spacefaring civilization, not by building bigger guns, but by understanding that in a universe governed by quantum mechanics, uncertainty itself could be the ultimate defense. The stars awaited, and Earth was ready.